You know, having played the game myself, I actually completely understand why they chose to go radio silent after that initial Game Awards trailer. Because I don't think I've ever seen a game that is more undeserving of being marketed in any way whatsoever. But yeah, Highguard, the game that caught everyone's attention when it was initially revealed, for all the wrong reasons, and one that sparked a lot of curiosity leading up to its release. Again, for all the wrong reasons. Yeah, people were not looking forward to this game. I wasn't looking forward to this game. You probably weren't looking forward to this game. People all over the internet were calling it Concord 2, and like, come on, guys. Especially in hindsight, that comparison is extremely unfair to Concord. Like, I'm not saying the comparison isn't warranted, but seriously, Concord is a generational failure. There is no way that Highguard was ever going to top that. But yeah, that didn't mean I was looking forward to it. I definitely wasn't. I only played the game because I thought I could make a vaguely interesting video about it, so here we are. So, what do I think about it overall? Holy shit, this game is bad. We can start with the general structure of the PvP matches. After all, this game had the gall to call it a new breed of shooter when all it showed at the original trailer was just the most generic tech fantasy shooter bullshit. So how far up its own ass did this game actually get to the point where it thinks it can actually call itself that? Well, it's because of the match structure. I think that is the only reason that they're actually calling it that. You'll notice that in places like its Steam page, it markets itself as a raid shooter. That is the only reason it thinks it's doing something new or unique. It's because of how the matches are structured. Instead of fighting off enemies and like getting a certain kill count or like pushing a vehicle somewhere or capturing a point, both teams start with a home base, and the goal is to simply break into the enemy base and destroy it. Now you probably heard that and I'm like, wait, isn't this just a MOBA? And yeah, definitionally speaking, Highguard is a MOBA. Which is great news for me, because I don't play MOBAs like ever. The one I spent the most time on was fucking Pokemon Unite. Talonflame for the win. But yeah, this structure is the big reason why Highguard thinks it's doing anything unique or special with its genre. As if first-person shooter MOBAs have never been tried before and are still being tried right now. Of course, that's just the basic objective of the game. I'm sure it also thinks it has to do with how you sort of interact with the other game elements. Basically, what happens is that the match is split into sort of 3.5 phases. The first half phase is the prep phase, I guess, where all you do is just reinforce walls on your home base. The next phase is a sort of, what do you call it? Like a search and collecting phase, where you just go around the map and like look for new equipment and shit. That's it. That's all you do in this phase. The next phase is where the item called the shield breaker forms, and at which point the game basically becomes capture the flag, and you have to pick up the shield breaker and bring it to the enemy base. And that starts the raid phase. And this one, it's just bomb defusal missions from other shooters. Okay, so yeah, already the unoriginality in this game is absolutely fucking staggering. It only thinks it's doing something unique and interesting because it's just taken these ideas and just mashed them together without a second thought. And of course, once you actually put all these together, you know what, we can talk about that in a bit. Let's talk about some of the other parts of this game, because those are the first things that you're going to notice. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do when opening up a game like this is to, of course, play the tutorial mission. And I don't know if it's just me, but the running speed feels unbearably slow. You can see it, right? I'm not going crazy. Like, it's just really slow. Now, you also get to learn about the mounts here, which serve one purpose and one purpose only. You'll see what that is. And it's here where you also learn one of the other things you can do in the whatchamacallit segments of the game, which is mine green crystals. And you use these to go to shops and get new equipment. I'm just gonna say it right now. This mechanic is absolutely fucking useless. The reason I say it's useless is because, one, you can find perfectly serviceable equipment out and about in the open areas, and two, because you don't just get the currency from these crystals, you also get it from just doing the game's main objectives, and that provides more than enough. So yeah, we're already not off to a great start, but now we get to talk about the other thing that's important for a game like this. The actual characters that you play as. And holy shit are these guys bland. Yeah, in a genre where character design and visual appeal is almost essential, Highguard decides to just do nothing. It just present you with the most basic, boring characters you could ever imagine. Something about this that pisses me off especially is that this is a fantasy setting. Not exactly a high fantasy. Like I said, it's more like tech fantasy, but fantasy nonetheless. And yet this is the best they could do with the character designs. There's virtually nothing creative about what they presented, and most of these characters just look like they came off the same random street in Los Angeles. I say most because, well, yeah, it is just most of them. But even when they don't look like they came off Los Angeles, they still look incredibly generic. And you know how the character designs can also do a lot to tell you sort of what role they're supposed to fill in a game like this? Well, Highguard takes the route of making big, beefy guy with claws and beast powers center around base destruction. And a dark witchcraft lady is a support character. Yeah, I'm actually genuinely struggling to figure out something I could talk about with this cast, but it's actually kind of hard to. I don't know what to say about them. I have absolutely nothing good to say about them, but I'm actually kind of struggling to find something funny or insulting I could say. It's that difficult. Now, as for gameplay, all these characters have an ability, a passive, and an ultimate. And we'll get to those in general, but it's testing these out that I realized that holy shit, this game has a lot of problems already. For example, Clawman's jump attack, it just feels bad. Like, once you jump, you are fully committed to the trajectory you set for yourself. You have no way to influence it at all, and it's just so slow. There are even a few technical issues I noticed with some of them, like how Ice Guy is able to move his walls forward, but the ability description never says that you can. And one of the most bizarre problems I noticed, Sand Girl is able to sort of temporarily delete a wall from existence, I guess. But considering everything surrounding the game, you would expect to use the E key to do this, but you use the Alt key. Why? I have no fucking clue, but it actually fucking baffled me so much I was legitimately pissed off. Like, how do you screw this up? And also, why does this not qualify as an active ability? Why is this the passive? Also, the character they added in one of the recent updates, his whole kit centers around this debuff, but the game never explains what the debuff actually does, if anything. And on top of that, the training range just doesn't seem to function correctly. Like, I tried to test out the lightning guy's abilities, but I'm pretty sure they just straight up didn't work. So yeah, definitely not going to use him if I can't get a feel of how his abilities work. Between all the 9 that were available, I had a feeling that I would probably gravitate towards this guy, Slade, because even though he's just an obvious fuckboy, he definitely looked the coolest out of all of them, which isn't a high bar to be fair. But then I heard him talk.
I don't start fights. I end them.
And I nearly cringed myself into oblivion. I still ended up picking him because I thought I would at least have fun with his abilities, but unfortunately for me, I think I may not have had fun with any character because as a whole, the abilities don't really feel very impactful. For the most part, the guns feel alright, I guess, but the abilities themselves, outside of the ones that are purely utility-based, the ones that you use for, offense, which is gonna be what you're fucking doing in this game. I mean, yeah, half of the reason probably could have been the non-functioning training mode, but still, even when I got into actual matches, when I used Slade's firewall, whatchamacallit, I don't care what these abilities are called. And anyway, with Fire Lane, there were times where I swear I got kills when I wasn't even trying to aim the thing, but when I assault someone with it directly underneath them, it feels completely ineffective, and I don't know what makes the difference. In fact, as a whole, you feel a lot more tanky than you feel like you should be. I don't know what it is, but for some reason you feel like you could just dump an entire magazine on someone and they'll still be standing, and then you're stuck there reloading, and then boom, you're dead. The weird part is that this never ever felt consistent. Like, I feel like sometimes they would have way more health than they should, and sometimes they feel like they die instantly. I genuinely could not tell you what made the difference. They just don't feel like they do anything. Even the ultimate abilities feel kind of ineffective, which sucks considering how slow you actually build these up. There's something else that is especially making ultimates lack the oomph factor that they should have, and you probably know exactly what it is. I mean, think about what makes other hero shooters like Overwatch or Marvel Rivals cool. The first thing that comes to mind is, well, obviously the character design and, well, yeah. But the second part, the one that really helps gives these games their identity, is, of course,
Nerf this!
The moon haunts you!
You are nothing!
It's high noon. Armed and dangerous! No mercy. Again! Again!
That's
Again! Again! Again!
these ultimate voice lines are so well spoken, so perfect for the characters, and they are just endlessly quotable. Yeah, I'm not going to be out there quoting any of Highguard's ultimate voice lines, especially when there's more than one that can be used. And like, do these guys know that there is a reason why ultimates and Overwatch or Rivals use one voice line? Because then you know what's about to happen? Oh, but I suppose that does kind of bring us to how actual matches play out, and this is where Highguard completely falls apart. Again, I guess. This game is boring. Just boring. Completely and utterly boring. It's here where you really have to question what the developers were thinking when they were actually designing and structuring this game. Really? A 3v3 shooter with maps as big as this and are completely empty and only filled with random loot strewn about? You almost never get into any actual engagement with the enemy team. And even when you actually start to engage with people because the main objective shows up, you barely feel like anything is actually going on because there's so few people actually playing the game. Why would you build it like this? Why? They did Band-Aid fix this at some point because they added in a 5 versus 5 raid mode, and the only difference now is that the raids get more hectic. And that would be a good thing, but most of the time it's actually really difficult to tell what's going on, especially because the bases are so consistently cramped. Gee, I wonder why 5 versus 5 didn't help out with that kind of structuring. But no matter whether you pick the 3v3 mode or the 5v5 mode, every single game in Highguard will always end up being insipidly boring. Because most, and I do mean most of the match, is just wandering around aimlessly, getting new loot and equipment, and just waiting for the game to progress. That is literally all that you're doing. There is no purpose to looting anything in this game other than just to prepare yourself for the main objective, and usually the looting takes way shorter than it actually takes for the objective to appear. And you're not just waiting for the objective to appear, you're waiting for the objective to start building itself, which already takes a minute to do. Why do you make us wait this long? Part of me is almost impressed that Highguard is what it is and thinks that it's doing anything unique with the shooter genre, when it is literally just Apex Legends, Capture the Flag, and Rainbow Six Siege just hastily stitched together in a MOBA structure. There is nothing special about Highguard, there is nothing unique about it, and it will not be remembered for anything when it inevitably shuts down because it hasn't been performing. I don't get it. I just don't get it. How the hell did this game get the stinger trailer at the biggest gaming show? How? What was Jeff smoking when he played this game? What the fuck did he see in it? I'm not even joking. This game is so goddamn boring that I'm genuinely worried that by using it as background footage, I might actually risk viewer retention on this video. To the point where that by the time I finish this sentence, I might just switch the default background footage to something more entertaining. Yeah, I don't know how, but it's only February, and Highguard is already a really strong contender for worst game of 2026. Honestly, that is more impressive than anything it thought it did well. Now, I hate the word slop, because like so many other words on the internet, it has been overused and misused to the point that people just throw it around without understanding what it actually means. And yet, I could not think of a more apt word to describe Highguard, at least from what I understand its true definition to be. Like, let's think about food. There's a reason why if you try to envision what slop food looks like, your mind probably instinctively goes to something thick and sludgy, like porridge or, more aptly, baby food. And baby food has a very specific purpose. Babies just aren't mature enough to enjoy food in the same way that an adult can. They're literally just not developed enough. And so they get this food, which is soft, mushy, easy to eat, just something they can have to get the nutrients they need to grow up, taste, structure, texture, all of that stuff be damned. So basically, when you're insulting art by calling it slop, what you're doing is essentially equating it to baby food. In other words, this is the kind of game that gets made so it can be played and have money spent on it, and not for any other purpose. Any of the reasons that you enjoy literally any other game will not be present in Highguard because it just wasn't made to have those qualities. And when you actually try to get something out of it, all you're going to end up being left with is just a million different questions. Why does the running speed feel slow? What is the point of mounts other than to traverse these unnecessarily huge maps? What's the point of having huge maps if you're designing the game around a 3 versus 3 structure? What's the point of having a 3 versus 3 structure by default if you can just slap on a 5v5 mode and somehow vaguely improve the game? Why does it only sometimes feel like my enemies are immortal? Why is the sandwall ability mapped to the alt key when everything else is mapped to the E key? Why can you push the ice wall when the ability description doesn't tell you you can? Why do you have a base health system and not just a point system? If you have a shop where you can buy items, why don't you just have that instead of structuring it around a giant open map with loot to find? Why do you use an axe to break crystals? Why do you use that same axe to break walls? Why can it not destroy obsidian walls when those same walls can be destroyed by claw hands or screaming really loud? Why is this game in a fantasy setting if none of the guns are going to have any remotely magical properties? If warfare in this world centers around guns, then what the fuck is the point of using any sort of magic at all in this world? Why does the base explosion look completely flaccid and lacking in impact? Why does this game think it's doing anything that hasn't already been done better on public Minecraft servers? Why does it think it's taking the shooter genre in a new direction when it's just stitched together other shooter elements into one package and made it extremely boring? What is the actual point of playing this game at all? The answer to all of these questions and more is, of course, fuck you! Because Highguard isn't going to answer these questions. Because Highguard doesn't even care about the questions that it itself raises. Because Highguard is a game that wasn't made with any sort of care or attention in any noticeable way. Because Highguard is not just a horrendously bad game. It is also slop. It is a game that exists for the purpose of being a game that gets played, and not for being a game that is well made, fun, interesting, enjoyable, just any quality that would actually make it worthwhile. So yeah, I know the game is free, but don't play it. Like, not even if you're extremely curious, just don't. It's a complete waste of time. There's nothing to gain from it at all. At best, you get some vaguely serviceable gunplay. At worst, you fall asleep. The game is that boring. You want a review score? Sure, fine. 1.5 out of 10. I still hate Sea of Stars more. So yeah, I'm just gonna end it there. I don't want to think about this game any longer. Before I go though, I would like to let you know that I'm thinking of making some changes to the channel in the coming year. So first of all, let me know if you're fine with more of these low effort, rambly type videos in between the more high effort reviews. And second of all, YouTube has just been pissing me off too much as of late, and at some point this year I'm probably going to start simul-posting to some other video platform. I don't know which one yet, but I am more than open to suggestions. Let me know if you have any. But yeah, Highguard. Bad game. Don't want to talk about it anymore, so if you'll excuse me, I'm going to do something more productive. Like watching paint dry.